Right then, so as I said, hip movement for me is a lot better. I think potentially in a sort of an emphasis way to try and get it to move, there's been a lot of knee movement. As we said, if you look at this left-hand one now, as you go back, almost before the club even goes anywhere, that knee is, it's almost like it's moving out there independently by itself. So the club gets back to not much outside your right foot, and there's already daylight now between your knees. Okay, so there's a lot of leg movement there. That's obviously going to affect A, your balance, and B, your sort of spine. It's going to start dipping in a little bit there as you go back. And because then the lower half then starts working excessively, you start sort of moving a bit of your weight. Looks a bit more to me on your toes. You haven't really turned into your right heel. So now you'd almost have to try to drop it underneath to try and get yourself on plane. But when you do that, obviously, unfortunately, you get very sort of stuck and trapped. You're like, I can't get my own way. You chuck everything out of the way, you're going to toe it, and it's going to be a sort of weird one to the right there, okay? So as best we can, we're trying the first foot of the swing, yeah? The knee's moving less, yeah? So the club's starting to go back, and yes, the knee is moving, but this felt to you like it wasn't moving at all, yeah? The club now is starting to move back. It's now even further back. There's no daylight yet. Still no daylight. Still no daylight. There, yeah? So we're starting to get there. That's kind of where you'd expect it to be, as opposed to before you were getting it kind of there, yeah? So there was not much. So we look at where the club in the same sort of position, about there. You look a lot more stable on that right one, just from your sort of leg structure, whereas this one here now is the old dad dancing with the knees going forward and backwards. Makes it very, very difficult to control your lower half. And if your lower half is losing balance, your top half now is just like, what the? Yeah. It's just like a ship on the high seas, just all like wobbling back and forth. And then, of course, because of that, your focus now is more like stay upright rather than hitting the golf ball. Yeah, so it becomes a secondary thing, and that's where the strike becomes all over the place. So we get the lower half working better because your hips are working better now. Just look at the difference in the shaft coming back down. Yeah, I mean, that's through your right forearm. So you're bringing the golf club down on a decent plane. You don't need to try to drop it anymore. Coming back down from a decent angle in there. Okay, releasing the body through. Okay, the club now kind of finishes up here, as we said, like above your sort of neck area and in sort of position, rather than sort of trying to play catch up and trying like, where's the finished position going to be? If things kind of work better from the ground upwards, at least then the top half can do the good things it knows it can do. You can swing the golf club on plane, but if your lower half is collapsing and your top half is going from there and tipping forward and you're going this way, you try and swing the club on plane. Now you've got to start moving your lower half very, very excessively on the way down, which again, being as tall as we are, it's very tough to sort of hit the golf ball if you're top heavy as we are and your lower half is out of control, yeah? So get the lower half to support the top half. Say from the hip movement perspective, it's pretty good. That first part here now, as you get to about here, excuse me, all that's happening now is your right side basically on the wall, the left side sort of rolled off it, and then from there now you're going to slide that towards the screen, which you do, yeah? So there's a decent hip movement now because of that movement now. That club, we've seen the club before in the past over your right shoulder coming down here somewhere. Yeah, even more than that blue line. So you definitely are shallow in the club, and that's what's going to happen sometimes. Because you, for so many years, I think it was the last lesson, it was the one before where I said, "Oh, you got to be." I know, I'm bloody, and you got to like, I knew I'm bloody steep. You couldn't fix it. Yeah. I think in your head, every time you play golf, when it goes wrong, I'm steep. That's kind of your kind of like mantra. I'm steep. So you try everything you possibly can to shallow. Now you are shallow in the club naturally. If you try to shallow it more, I think that's where that one that went so far right was. You just dropped it so far underneath that you just came way from the inside, just trying to golf club there. And the face was a bit open, it was a little bit toey, but all the extras added together just sent it 50 yards over there. And it didn't lose that much yardage because it was hit all right. It wasn't so toey as you thought. So, and the shallowing of your golf club now is something that's definitely happening. Now the hips are working better, which allows the top half to work better, i.e. your shoulders and all your arm work. If the lower half can support your top half, it's some better shots. And I would say from the perspective of now currently, don't necessarily worry so much about sort of direction. Just go on the range, just work on strike, yeah? Just find the golf ball, yeah? Get yourself in a good position, your body's working better, your lower half supporting your top half. It's going to make it easier for you to stabilise a swing. Then you just start swinging the club and getting used to it and finding contact, yeah? And then if it goes on the range, it goes a bit left, a bit right. This time, don't worry about it. Just look at getting a good strike and getting the body to work better, yeah?
Cool.
You can work on club face once the sort of the engine is working better as the new year sort of progresses, okay?
Yep.
All right, let's have a couple more then, buddy, all right? Otherwise, yeah, the stuff that we've done in the past with shallowing, with working the hips better, they're starting to embed in now, yeah? So you're doing them now with almost, I would dare I say it, without thinking. Whereas you know in the past, and you like a lot of other people, buddy, you're always like, I've got too many thoughts in my head, now you're overthinking. And that's the thing that I think affects a lot of people. They overanalyze. So I always get, and you'll always hear me in every single session I give, is basically say, right, here's the practice movement, practice that in the swing, and then when the ball's in the way, just go hit the ball. Yeah, it's easier said than done, I get that. But if we can practice that first part of the swing, just get that first movement going back and forth over and over again to the point where you think, okay, I know the feel now for my left knee and what my right hip's going to do on the ball there. Once you've got that now, the rest then sort of just takes effect. You sort of just swing the top of the backswing, and now your focus is on hitting that little white thing, yeah? So, okay, mate?